Hello, today is November 14th, 2020. My name is Alyssa Olivares and I'm interviewing Taylean Zuniga for the University Library Special Collections and Archives at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV. This project is in partnership with the Voces of Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Ms. Taylean Zuniga, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The University Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentations you are willing to share. UTRGV University Library will retain copyright or non-exclusive right to the interview and any other materials you donate to Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record your consenting to make sure you agree with our interview procedures before we continue. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each question. Do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview and your materials at the UTRGV University Library?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide? Were you able to hear my second question?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I don't know. I guess you didn't hear me. Yes, I agree.
Oh, okay. Do you agree to allow UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for exclusion in the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes, I agree.
As you recall, we previously filled out a pre-interview form. We use information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it, UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members, so that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask for your consent on what I just described. Do you wish for us to share
Yes, I agree.
Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. In your public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
Yes, I agree.
On occasion, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you for your consent. Your experiences and stories mean a lot to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives. I look forward to what you say in the interview questions I will now ask. So, Taylean, thank you for your time. Like I said earlier, your stories and experiences are valuable to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and the Voces project. Particularly for us at UTRGV Special Collections, we are committed to preserving the stories of Mexican Americans and Latinos from South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, and those who work closely with these populations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Because you are a mother who cares for the physical safety and mental well-being of her family in the community of Edinburgh, Texas, and because you are a family member who is knowledgeable of the ways COVID-19 has affected others in your inner circle, I know you have many meaningful stories and experiences to share on how COVID-19 has impacted these roles you carry out in your life. So before I ask to share these stories about your life in this pandemic, tell us, who is Taylean Zuniga?
Good question. Who am I? I am a 34-year-old, 5 children. Family is very important to me. I am studying to be a teacher, so hopefully I'll be able to graduate next year and be able to fulfill that dream I've had since I was little. And like I said, family is just very important to me. We're very family oriented. You know, we try to be together, spend time together as much as we can. And of course, with COVID, it has changed quite a bit, but we still try to, you know, spend time together, or at least talk to each other. If it's not in person, at least over the phone, just a quick, hey, how are you doing? How's everything? So
Alrighty. So the first question I want to ask will go over, well, the first few questions will be over the personal understanding of COVID-19 and your first encounters. So the first question I want to ask you is, when did you first hear about COVID-19 and how did you learn about it? Through either the radio, the TV, your children, social media?
I think the first time that I can remember, it was actually through school, because I was registered at, I was taking classes at UTRGV, and a lot of our professors, you know, right before spring break, started, you know, discussing, okay, well, what's going to happen, you know, with this COVID, and how classes were going to start being handled. Time that I really kind of heard about it and started getting information on it.
And what was your first reaction to the information about COVID-19?
Honestly, I thought it was just, you know, just a common, it was just kind of like any virus or bacteria we have, you know, like the flu, sinus flus that we get, and sinus colds that we get. So I didn't really think it was a really big deal.
At what point did you realize this pandemic was a serious life-altering event? Or do you not think it's too serious, and why?
I think it is serious. I think for me, the point was where it started getting serious was all the cases we started getting. You know, the cases just kept rising and rising and rising, and that was, you know, kind of scary. And then it really hit home when my dad ended up coming out positive and was in the hospital. So that's kind of where, and I guess it's different for everybody, and a lot, it's just a sickness. Everybody's going to get over it. It's, people are taking it too serious and stuff like that. But once it happens to you, or once it's within your inner circle, within your family, that's where your perspective changes on it a lot. And I think for me, that's really where it, I knew it was serious and I was taking my precautions, but it it skyrocketed when it happened to my dad.
Over the last few months, what news media, social media, or other sources do you rely on to keep you informed about coronavirus?
Um, this is actually very, I know, a bad habit I have, but I don't really watch a lot of the news. I do get a lot of information from my husband. He's more the one who watches the news and then kind of tells me what's going on. COVID, I did rely a lot on Facebook. How the county was putting it on their page and putting down what cases and how many had been released and stuff like that. That's kind of the more that I kept in touch with, was just that particular page.
Can you share with me what you understand about COVID and as about the infectious disease? Like, what are the main facts you know about it?
Well, I I don't think I know a lot. I think I just know like the basic information. So I do know it's there's a particular word for it, and I don't have it right now, but I do know it has a lot to do with it's not necessarily, I guess, airborne. It's more with like when people, that's how it's getting transferred. Um, so wearing the mask is important to be able to help that transfer from going on to somebody else, and also from it coming on to you. Um, it is a very serious illness. It does affect people in different ways. Um, it just kind of depends on what your body has already been through, and it can either affect you in the highest possible, where the worst possible, where you on a ventilator, or have be handled at the hospital, and it can be as low as where you don't, it's just like a regular common cold, or the flu, or it can be to the point where you don't have any symptoms at all, and so regardless if you don't feel sick, you still need to take precautions as far as when you're going out, and wearing your masks and stuff like that. So that's kind of the basic information that I have about it.
Would you take the first COVID-19 vaccine available on the market? Why or why not?
Um, I think I would like to be on the first wave, of vaccines, mainly because even with the flu vaccine, I'm not one that takes the flu shot every year. I've had a very bad experience with it, the first time that I ever took it. So I think that's kind of put me just where I don't want to take that risk. So I don't think I would be part of at least that first wave of the vaccine. Maybe things may change later on, but as of right now, I would say no.
Do your family hold the same beliefs as you about COVID-19, or are there some members who take it more seriously or lightly?
Um, I think for the most part, my family, we do take the precautions that are needed. As far as like more my inner family, my immediate family, As far as extended family, I think some of them don't take it as seriously, but as far as immediate, um, for the most part, the majority of them do take it seriously. There may be a couple here and there that may take it lightly, but for the most part, the majority, we do take it serious.
For these next set of questions, I would like to talk about how you have seen COVID-19 affect you and your family members and what impacted you the most. So, what COVID-19 precautions have you made for you and your family?
Precaution wise, um, we try to stay home as much as possible. If we don't have to go out, we're not going to go out. There, we do still go to some places here and there. Excuse me, we try to stay home. If we do go out, we all have our masks. I carry hand sanitizer with me in my purse. Um, and we just try, you know, we try to be as safe as possible. But of course, with anything else, you can take as many precautions as you want, but there is a slight chance of you still contracting COVID. So I think taking as many precautions as you can, wearing your mask, trying to avoid uh, going around shopping the way we usually do or the way it was before. We do have to make some changes as far as, staying home and not going out as much as we used to.
How has the pandemic altered your travel to places to visit loved ones?
I would say yes, it has. In the beginning, I mean, we had some plans when everything first started, so it did. We did have to cancel some of our plans as far as traveling to go visit some friends or to go visit, my sister-in-law. I think that now that it's kind of getting back to not normal per se, aren't as high, um, it's still affecting our travel because we haven't actually made the effort to go and visit loved ones or go and visit my sister-in-law the way we would normally do it.
What are some strategies you use to keep your kids knowledgeable of the COVID-19 virus, especially your younger kids?
For the little ones, I mean, we basically just sat them down and try to explain it to them, but in simple terms. This is a sickness that is going around, and being out in public increases your chances of getting that sickness. And lost somebody to COVID, it kind of made them understand a little bit more on why we're taking the precautions we do. There are times, that they don't fully understand what's going on, and they don't understand why they can't go visit their friends or they can't go visit their cousins the way they used to. And so when it comes to those times, when it comes to those questions, well, why not? It's just basically sitting them down and explaining in simple terms in their where they're going to understand it, that it's not a good time right now. We can't risk them getting sick, or we can't risk anybody in the family getting sick. And so basically just talking to them and being open with them about what's going on, I think is the most that communication, that's the most important thing for you to do for them.
How do you feel about schools reopening to being in class education?
Um, right now, I don't really feel comfortable sending my kids to school. Um, the older ones, I would say maybe my older ones, my high school ones, I do have For them, I wouldn't be 100% okay with it, but I would be okay with them going back to school only because they're older, so they understand the precautions that need to be taken. They understand that their mask does need to be worn at all times. They understand the significance of everything that they're trying to do to prevent, them getting sick or preventing somebody else from getting sick. For my little ones, who are in second grade and pre-K, I I don't feel too comfortable with them sending them home. Sending them home, sorry, sending them to school, only because, they're little, they don't fully comprehend what's going on. Yes, they do know there's a virus or sickness going around, but they don't fully comprehend the importance of having to wear their mask all day, and because they're not going to be used to that. This is something that is different for them. And having to wear a mask for 8 hours in the day, I just think is too much for um, a young child to understand, and for them to actually do it. And not only that, but they don't understand the purpose of keeping 6 feet apart, you know, especially little ones in elementary. They're used to, being able to hug their teacher or being able to hug their counselor. And so enforcing that 6 feet for them at such a young age, I think is going to mess with their emotions. And not only that, it's going to cause some issues later on that we may not be expecting or seeing today.
What precautions do you take when having to provide for your family, for example, grocery shopping?
Um, so when we do grocery shopping, I tend to, all my kiddos stay home. No, none of them go with me. It's either me by myself or it's me and my husband that go to the grocery shop. When we do wear our masks. We make sure we have our masks. We make sure to adhere to the 6 feet, and we do have our hand sanitizer that we use once we get in the car, and of course once we get home we wash our hands, and that's it.
How has the pandemic changed the way your family celebrates holidays, birthdays, and other events? Is there a specific story that you'd like to share?
um I think it's affected us in a big way. We've had birthday parties for them um, since they were small. So this year, for my 7-year-old, not being able to have the party that she wanted, usually it's at Peter Piper, or she has a swimming party because her birthday is closer to the summer. Um, it was kind of hard for her to not be able to have her friends at a party, not being able to have her family coming over and celebrating with her. It was something small at home. We got her a cake, and um, mom and dad were here, brother and sisters were here, and grandma and grandpa, and that was it. So it was a little hard for her, not being able to have that celebration. And then not only that, I think for me, the hardest holiday was Father's Day did happen around the pandemic. And as a precaution and to be safe, I did not go visit my dad. And I think what that holiday has been the hardest for me, because I stayed away to keep him safe. And I ended up keeping his Father's Day gift here with me, and I couldn't give it to him. So that holiday was has been the hardest one.
You mentioned in your pre-interview you experienced the loss of a family member due to COVID-19. If you can you please share with me the story of their struggle with COVID? What were the impacting struggles you faced during the moment you heard your family member was positive of the virus to the moment your family gathered during the passing of your loved one?
Um, I think at first, I knew he was sick. I knew my dad had gotten sick, and we were. My mom called and said, he was being admitted to the hospital. They thought that it was COVID, and so I found out later that he had already been sick a couple of days. Um, so I didn't really get to experience what he went through prior to being admitted to the hospital. But his stay was kind of heartbreaking. I mean, in talking to him, you could hear it in his voice where he didn't want to be there. He was having a tough time with it as well. Um, and I remember my last conversation with him, and he didn't want to be there. He was ready to go home, and he was ready to be at home with his family. And I think seeing him, or not necessarily seeing him, but not being able to see him, not being able to be there for him, had a huge impact on him, because he didn't get to see his loved ones. He didn't have that encouragement, to get better, or to be able for somebody to tell him, hey, dad, everything's going to be okay. You're going to be home soon. You're going to get better. So I think that was impacted him in a negative way. And as for the family, I think not being able to see him, to him the way we wanted to, was hard on us. We didn't get to, we couldn't go and see him, because of everything that was going on, because of how contagious COVID is. And being I'm happy, I'm glad that I was able to be there for my mom, through all of this. But being the one to get the phone call, that he had passed, that was the most difficult conversation that I had ever had. Um, Getting that bad news and relay that to my mom, and not only my mom, but having to relay it to my brothers and my sisters. Um, it's not a position that I would wish on anybody, but I do
I am glad that I was there for my mom and that she didn't have to take that phone call and she wasn't alone when everything happened.
Can you describe the financial impact of losing a loved one to COVID, like hospital, medical bills?
As far as for hospital and medical bills, I think in that aspect, my dad did have insurance. So, um, as far as my mom having to, doesn't really have to deal with the hospital bills or medical bills. Um, However, losing a loved one so unexpectedly, funeral expenses were a big, that was something big for us. We weren't prepared. And funerals are just so, everything is just so expensive. So having to have not being financially ready for a funeral does take a big impact in. I'm grateful that we were able to raise money to be able to help us with that. And then whatever wasn't raised, that was, we're a big family. So we were able to divide that amongst ourselves and take care of that for our mom and our mom not have to worry about how she was going to pay for a funeral or how she was going to pay that her children took care of for her.
Can you please describe how the pandemic shaped the funeral practices your family observed for your departed loved one?
The funeral was, due to COVID, the funeral was very different than what we're used to. The experience that I had in every funeral home that we were calling, my family and I were calling, um, because he was a COVID patient, um, they weren't wanting to have an actual funeral service for him. For the most part, what they were doing is it was going to be a direct burial or a direct cremation. And what that means is that we would not be able to have a viewing. We would not be able to see him beforehand. They were going to pick him up from the hospital, take him to the funeral home, get him ready, and then straight to the cemetery. So there was no last goodbye. There was no last viewing, or it was a cremation, just a direct cremation. We would not see him. So that was very difficult for us until we actually found a funeral home that did work with us, and we were able to have a viewing for him. We were able to say our last goodbyes. We were able to have the opportunity to have that service for him. Now, we were restricted as far as how many people could go, how many people could attend. So it was hard, that a lot of people that wanted to be there couldn't be there, either because they were afraid of coming out, and they, not that they yes, they were afraid, but they were taking precaution for themselves and their family, as far as staying home. And it was just a little bit different. It was different for us, not being able to see all of our see all of my dad's, for people saying goodbye to him. And so we, at least we still got to have the opportunity to see him and to say our last goodbyes, and have the as normal of a funeral service as we could.
The following questions will focus on the struggles or adjustments you and your kids have experienced with virtual learning. The transition from in-person to now virtual learning has been a constant struggle many college students have been facing. Considering you being a UTRGV student, I feel it is important you explain your online educational experiences, especially as you get closer to graduation. What adjustments did you make to continue an education through virtual learning for you and your children?
So for my little ones, we'll start there. So the little ones, we were able to get a desk for them. The school was able to provide them with laptops and iPads to be able to continue with their virtual learning. For my little ones would have to be more my son. My daughter, my 7-year-old, I think for her, she misses her friends. She misses that interaction, with the other students, the interaction with her teachers. So I think for her, that's been the hardest challenge, is just that social interaction, not being there. As far as my son, it has been a struggle for him. Having to sit at a computer for more than an hour, it gets very difficult for him. He does get distracted, and so he wants to get up, he wants to do other things. And then not only that, it's like, it's hard for him to say, this is school time, I'm going to concentrate on school, when he knows he's at home. So I think for us, that's been a big struggle, is just trying to get him to sit down and do his work and, pay attention to the teacher. So it's getting there, but it's still a little difficult for him. He's still too young to understand or what exactly is going on. As far as my older ones, they each have their own laptop, and they have their desk in their room. So they kind of just stay in their room, where it's, so they're able to concentrate on their school. But again, the same thing for them. The biggest struggle for them is, that social interaction. My son's a senior. He's missing a lot of stuff that seniors normally would do this time of year. It's his last year in high school, and so he's missing out on school dances. He's missing out on homecoming. He's missing out on if this continues, he's missing out on prom. He's missing out on having a normal graduation. He's missing out on football games that aren't, yes, they're still having them, but it's different than what it was before. So a lot has changed for them that they're just not quite used to yet. For me, being a student and taking a full online course, not just one, but taking 5 online courses, has been difficult, at least for me. Just, yeah, out of my 5 classes, I believe only 3 are where they're synchronous. I have to log in and be on a computer for an hour and a half. What is it? An hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. So that does make it a little hard for me, especially being home, my kids think we're at home, we can still, let's ask mom for this or let's ask mom for that. So it does get a little difficult having to work on schoolwork, but at the same time having to take care of the kiddos at home and getting what they need, or if they need help with their schoolwork. It does get a little hard with that. My husband does help, so that's a plus. But not only that, it especially for students that are more hands-on, um, this is more for, I guess, auditory learners and visual learners. Every person is a different learner, and so for the most, I am good with just how the classes have gone so far, but there are some items that would be preferable in the classroom than it would online. So there have been some difficulties there, but keeping a calendar, keeping writing down what needs to be done, when it's due. I think that has really helped me as far as trying to stay on top of my classwork and my schoolwork. And it's still difficult, but it's doable. We got to work with what we get. So.
What lessons or activities given by your professors have you found interesting that may relate to COVID-19?
You broke up a little bit there. What was the question again?
What lessons or activities given by your professors have you found interesting that may relate to COVID-19?
Um, I think the fact that we're we're all learning together, as far as this. But I don't think I've had any lessons or activities that really would connect to COVID. Um, I mean, yeah, no, there really hasn't been anything that I've found as far as that. I mean, we haven't really done any lessons or activities that are interesting or related to COVID.
Are you concerned about the effectiveness of virtual learning for your kids?
Yes, I am. In all honesty, as far as my little one, it being his first year, I honestly don't think he's learning a lot from, or he's not grasping what he needs to doing virtual learning. The older ones, yes, maybe a little bit more so. And maybe my 7-year-old, but I still feel that, especially for him, he's not learning everything that he should. I mean, it's different being, especially with him, that we have difficulties where keeping him focused on the lesson, or that it's not helping his learning. Yes, he may grasp some concepts, but I think them being in school, they're so focused, is the teacher. And here there's just too many distractions for him that I think he's maybe getting half or maybe less than half of the information that is given to him.
What was your first reaction to the news of education continuing through online virtual learning?
Um, so from my understanding, it's still the parent's choice as far as virtual learning or in class. Um, I'm not extremely happy about it, um, because of the fact impacting their learning, their education, in a negative way, where they're not grasping everything that they need to. But at the same time, I know some parents, especially for some parents, I know some parents, having their kid, they work, and a lot of them may be essential workers, and so they are out, and don't have anybody at home to watch their kids, and with COVID making daycares a little bit more difficult, to be able to send, it's so for them, virtual is not a good option for them right now. um but at the same time, with cases going up on the rise again, and it still being a serious illness, it's kind of hard sending your kids off to school, and risking them contracting COVID and bringing it back home, and then for everybody else to get sick as well. So I guess virtual learning, there are some goods and there are some bads. Um, but I think I'm kind of like in the middle with virtual learning, a little upset that it is continuing because, again, like I said, I don't feel like they're learning everything they need to. Um, but at the same time, happy because, again, we're still taking that precaution and them not sick.
Lastly, I'm going to ask you the final questions. So, are you satisfied with the local response to COVID-19 in Edinburgh and Hidalgo County?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be able to put myself in that position to make those decisions. But I do believe that they are doing everything that they can, and to be able to keep the county informed, keep letting the people know what's going on, as far as cases and stuff like that. Should there be more done? I mean, with anything, yeah, I mean, there's always more that can be done. But as far as right now, or what we can do, I think that the county or the people, trying to they're doing what they can, and they're working with what they can. And I would say, yes, I am satisfied, but again, like with anything else, more can be done. And I just think communication, just, keeping us informed is going to be the best thing, to continue doing.
Are you satisfied with the state response to COVID-19 led by Governor Abbott?
Um, I think for the most part, yes. There are some things that I don't agree with, but for the most part, some of the decisions that they did make were for the state, for the betterment of the state. So,
Are you satisfied with the national response to COVID-19 led by our past president, Donald Trump, and his administration?
um, I would say I can't really answer that, only because I didn't really keep up with that side of it. So I really don't have like a full opinion to give on it.
If you had the power to respond to COVID-19, what would you do differently, if anything?
Sorry, got a little distracted there. Can you repeat the question for me? Sorry.
If you had the power to respond to COVID-19, what would you do differently, if anything?
Honestly, I would say the one thing that I would change is being able to inform and stress um, the importance of COVID. You know, I think a lot of people in the beginning didn't take it serious, but at the same time, because maybe communication wasn't given to us right away. So I think, you know, communication would be earlier, as well as stressing the importance of it. And I know I can't change people's minds, you know, if they're going to take it serious or not. But I think just having a more communication of it, and again being able to stress that, you know, this is a serious issue. This is something that's not gonna go away anytime soon. And I think yeah, because I think it just didn't get serious enough at the beginning. I think it was just a little bit too late. This, you know, the serious issue that's going on.
This is a special year in our national democracy because it's a presidential voting year. Did you vote? And if so, did you notice or do anything different because of COVID-19 pandemic?
Honestly, no, I did not vote.
Lastly, is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID-19 that I have not asked about?
No, just that, you know, this pandemic is COVID-19 is a serious issue. It is real. I know a lot of people think that, you know, it's not real. It's, you know, something, you know, just different reasons out there. Um, so I just do want to say that yes, COVID is real. It does affect a lot of families, you know, and it's not something that I I expected for me and my family to go through. But it happened, and you know, we just need to be safe and take the precautions that we need um, in order for us to and in order for us to get through this pandemic, because we honestly we don't know when it's going to end. And I don't think that's going to be anytime soon.
Thank you so much, Taylean, for allowing me to interview you and archive your struggles, adjustments, and sharing your impacting stories throughout COVID-19. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and thank you for a part of this interview. So thank you.